Hi, my name is Karacostas. So, we all know about deadlines in the US. The stock market clocks in at certain times, like we're always rushing to watch Game of Thrones at exactly 8 p.m., whenever it was on. And a lot of times we talk about like the phrase, like, if you're on time, you're late. But in Spain, a lot of times that only applies to business. And in most other cases, the phrase, if you're late, you're on time, is a better thing to apply here. So, I'm going to talk to you today about how best to do business in Spain and how their communication practices differ. And, um, and I'm going to cover three main points. The first thing I'm going to discuss is the difference between monochronicity and polychronicity, why Spain is a mixture between those two fancy phrases, and how best to adapt to that type of situation. So, I'm going to start with monochronicity. These are both really fancy terms, and so I'm going to do my best to break them down for you. So monochronicity means like a focus on deadlines, making sure that you're punctual, showing up at work on time or early, finishing things on a certain schedule, not just like floating around and just like getting things done whenever they happen to be done. Like, it's kind of like a situation. While polychronicity, according to Simon J. and Adams and Wendelli and Van Eerd, in their article, Time Use in Spain, Is Polychronicity a Cultural Phenomenon? Polychronicity is more focusing on situations in which you're focusing on people and interactions than meeting certain deadlines. And so you're more focused on connecting with other people. But that does not mean you're focusing on like socializing and like a social life. It just means that you're not rushing around, rushing through dinner, things like that. So Spain is a mixture between the two of these. And you're probably kind of wondering how that works. So with Spain, it only applies to business. So it doesn't apply to things like social interactions, entertainment, stuff like that. And so like the Spanish people, like they go to work, they finish their stuff, and they leave. But whenever it comes to the polychronic side of the culture, it's a little bit more complex. So a lot of times you'll hear about things like Spanish time, which is what made me want to look into this in the first place. One of my friends went there and he talked about how he had to adapt to like Spanish time and what that meant. And how it meant that like you couldn't rush through dinner because you don't tip waiters, so they don't have as much incentive to like get you in and out, and people don't go to like bars until like midnight, 1 a.m. And so it's a very different type of culture than the US. And which is why I wanted to dig into this. And so the thing to keep in mind is, so like you might have like a colleague that shows up to dinner late, or like dinner might run long, and there's just a very great appreciation for like interactions and people and culture, as Hofstede Insights shows us. And one of the areas that you see this kind of like strange duality between the two types is you have the term flexibilidad, which is considered a virtue in Spanish culture, versus the term inflexibilidad, which is considered more like you're too harsh or you're too rough and you should just be a little bit more laid back. And this is also seen in the fact that like few meetings between people start on time or with all members present, which is another sort of like strange duality between like needing to be on time when it comes to business but being a lot more flexible outside of it. And the other thing to keep in mind is there's a really high value on like what what others think of us and what we think of others. As Culturegram's online edition mentions, it talks about it really all three of these different pieces really emphasize the interactions with other people and just making sure that you're not just doing business to make money. Like, you're doing business and you're connecting with those people and you're trying to do your best to get work done. And so you're probably wondering, like, how do I work around this? Well, so the thing that I keep in mind is that context is super, super essential in all of these situations. And that's honestly probably the most important thing. And so you want to divide the way you approach business versus the way that you approach socializing and interactions with outside of that. But you should also keep in mind that a lot of times we all know that like the best business happens whenever you're getting dinner or you're getting lunch with like a work colleague, or you're taking like a potential client to dinner. And so you want to make sure that you're not trying to hold the same standard of that monochronistic standard that you have during, say, like a work meeting to getting dinner with this person, as Eard and Adam say. And so the way that I would that I kind of describe it is you want to both have patience and be willing to like work on the deadlines that you need to, but also have faith. Like if someone that you're meeting for like a work dinner shows up late, don't worry about it. It's not a commentary on you or anything. It just means that they are probably working on building those connections with other people. And I would say that the only area that you really need to be worried is if they both show up late but also leave early, because then they're showing that they're not valuing that work connection or that social interaction with you, which is what you're trying to do. You're trying to build those social interactions so that you can improve both the business that you have with this person, the connection that you have with them, so that all sides can work out. And so today I talked to you about polychronistic versus monochronistic cultures, and how Spain is a mixture between the two and how best to adapt to that. And so the best thing that I can really tell you is to just keep in mind context and think about the situations that you're going into. Like, it's honestly not going to be that hard to adapt to like Spanish time, as my friend mentioned. And the nice thing is if you are coming from the US and you're working in Spain, you can still enjoy the comfort that like whenever it comes to work and deadlines, like people are still going to meet deadlines. You don't have to worry about that. But also be a little bit more willing to like schmooze whenever you're having these meetings with these people, so that you can really get the most out of the business that you're wanting to conduct.
I'm still here.